True story. 8 years ago, I ordered a custom bow from a reputable bow manufacturer all the way across the country. We talked a couple times, talked about woods and styles, and then we settled on what I was looking for, gave him my specs, and paid my down payment. 7 months later, the bow was ready. I paid in full. He shipped me the bow. I hated it the minute it came out of the box. It didn't look good. It didn't feel right. And it didn't shoot good. I ended up selling that bow 3 weeks later for $250 less than I paid for it. I took a bath on that, and my wife was not happy. Enter Black Widow Bows. They have a test drive program. If you're even remotely interested in shooting a Black Widow bow, give those guys at the shop a call. Talk to them. Tell them what you're looking for. They're going to give some really good guidance. They're going to have some really great advice. They're going to have a bow that's close to your specs on the demo rack, if not right on. You're going to run your card. You're going to pay for shipping both ways. You're going to pay for insurance both ways, and you're going to get to shoot the bow for a week. You might decide you don't want to shoot a Black Widow bow, and that's cool. Send it back. But you might decide you want to order one. You want to make some tweaks to get it just what you want. I wish I had that option 8 years ago. If you're thinking about a Black Widow bow, give those guys a call. If nothing else, they're fun to talk to.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Stick Bow Chronicles, brought to you by Black Widow Bows. I got Rob Patuto on the other end of the mic. What's going on, Rob?
Not much, buddy. How are you doing?
Doing good. Just trying not to get wet. It's raining like a son of a gun here right now.
Is it? What's the temperature down there?
It's supposed to get down in the low 30s tonight, I think. So it's going to be pretty miserable tomorrow.
That's pretty much what we got going on. I watched that. We got a pretty good jag of snow. I watched that thermometer drop. Well, not drop, climb. It was like 28 when I got up, and that's good snow and temperature. I mean, it was really putting her down. But dadgum hit 37 and just nasty, man. When it's winter, I want winter. I don't want, what'd you call it? Half winter. Nasty.
Yeah, and that's what we get here. We don't get much snow, hardly at all. It was actually supposed to snow today, but it didn't end up getting cold enough. But like Bill said on the podcast I did with him, that 33, 34 degree rain is about as miserable as it gets.
God,
it's super, super cold.
That's nasty stuff.
I would much rather have the snow, other than the driving conditions. I'm sure that's kind of a pain in the butt.
It's really
down
not.
here anyway.
Yeah, it's really not. You get used to it.
Well, the thing down here is they're not equipped to deal with it.
Oh, sure.
So when we do get it, it's just like everybody loses their mind.
Well, the first snow of the year, the first good snow of the year, you got to be on high alert because myself included, you forget. Like, oh, wait a minute, I can't just like jam the brakes on, 30 yards from the stop sign. That doesn't work right now. So there's a little bit. Yeah. But then you got the people that have never driven in it, and yeah, you got a high alert.
It's never bothered me too much. It's just the infrastructure down here is not prepared to deal with even a few inches of snow. And we get bad ice storms down here every once in a while, and it just everybody loses their mind.
Hey, maybe a week ago, 10 days ago, I posted just a short video, and I really didn't give it enough of a description. I just said, hey, I knew this kid when he was about 6 years old. He's probably 28 now, and he's done more in the mountains than most of 50-year-olds have done. Did you see that?
I did.
It was really cool. I just came across it on Facebook. He's a super good kid. It's the audio, like, so when he bugles, it's kind of nasty, you know, kind of blows up the microphone. But when that bull answers him, man, that is straight up North Idaho. You know, if I challenge anybody to look at that video and tell me that that's going to be fun. It looks like you're in frickin' Vietnam jungle, like a Southeast Asian jungle. But those bugles just resonate through that timber and through that brush. It just sounds so awesome. And he captured that sound on his phone, and I just ran across it, and it's pretty cool. You know, you look at somebody, that kid flat gets it done. He's an animal. And his dad just, you know, he's been doing it since he was about 5 because his dad took him with him all the time.
Yeah, that rolls into the conversation we have with this week's guest.
Look at that segue. Holy crap, dude. Wow, that was awesome.
I've done this before, like a couple of times, 2 or 3. Nice. No, but this week's guest, we had Greg Krause on at Wild Traditions Outdoors on Instagram. Greg is a killer of whitetails, many of them, and just a good dude, got a family. Talk about a lot of different things, balancing family life and keeping the kids involved and things like that is one of them. Talk some arrow setup stuff, tactics, just kind of all over the map, really.
You know, Greg's been awesome. I just kind of met him through Instagram and Facebook. He's always posting quality stuff. And just, you know, like what he does. It's not like he's selling anything. It's not like he's promoting anything. He's just posting what he does. And he's a champion for the kids for sure. And he talks about what his girls do, like just his little girls do just on their own. And it's, you know, it's obviously he's instilled a love of the outdoors in them.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I respect the hell out of Greg for that. And for those listening, if you want to go get advice from somebody on things, when it comes to killing stuff and running arrows through stuff or really anything, Greg is a great resource. He posts a lot of good info all the time. And, you know, like Rob said, he's constantly got his kids involved. He balances that very well from what I can see. And that's something I think everybody who's got a family and kids kind of struggles with, that enjoys the outdoors as much as we do. And, you know, I think it was a really good listen.
Yeah. You talk about a blue collar guy, right? Because there's lots of them out there. I mean, there is thousands and thousands and thousands all across the country that just, you know, we hunt after work, before work, some people, and weekends and stuff. It's not the glamour and the fame of hunting all over the world, all over the country, all the time. Blue collar guys, and, you know, giving back. And Greg was the dude that jumped in right after Selway and said, "Hey, man, I want to get those kids in a I Hunt Close thing." He was it cutthroat broadheads? Was that right?
Yeah. He donated some cutthroat broadheads to the kids portion of the giveaway or contest, whatever you want to call it. And you know, that's just the kind of guy he is, and we appreciate it big time.
The amount of deer that dude's killed with a bow.
It's a little mind blowing.
Oh my gosh. That's insane.
You know, we talk about it in the podcast, but they've got basically I think he said he can shoot $2 and unlimited does now. And at one point it was just unlimited deer, period. They just basically want to get rid of as many of them as possible up there. They're so overpopulated, so many of them. And, I think, what did he say? He's killed as many as like 30 in a year.
I think that's what I remember. But, you know, when we were done with the podcast, I'm not sure why he didn't want to say it. And maybe I'm going to get in trouble for saying it. But, you know, he was donating Hunters to the Hungry. Is that right? Or
Hunters for the Hungry, or
they
something
give you
to that effect.
And they give you the backstrap?
Yeah, as like I guess a token of appreciation, you get to keep the backstraps when you donate the meat. And he said at one point he had a deep freeze stacked plumb full of backstraps.
Oh my gosh!
Nothing else in it, just backstraps. It's pretty wild, but
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's cool. And he does a lot of it with a traditional bow. I think he's kind of bounced back and forth over the years between compound and trad bow. And I think this year, he said, was the first year he's just been 100% trad bow. But He's been hunting with a stick bow
for 15 years.
05.
Yep.
Yeah.
15 years.
So,
and that's a great story. Yeah, that's a great story in itself. I mean, a guy that just, wasn't ready to commit. And when he was ready, he let it rip. Yeah, it's a good story in itself.
Yeah. He's a good shot and good killer, good woodsman. Like I said, this is one of those guys that some people may not know who he is, but he's a good follow. He posts a lot of good information and can answer questions for people if they have questions. So I sometimes I just think I've killed a lot of deer, and then I talk to somebody like Greg, and I realize how few I've killed.
Yeah. You talk about a guy testing broadheads and tested setups and stuff. He just flat runs arrows through stuff for sure.
Yep.
Before I'm gonna shift gears for a second here. You're gonna hear me talk about this more. Probably gonna have a guest on to talk about it. And it's something that kind of flies under the radar, and I'm passionate about a state's ability to manage game. The bear baiting ban in Idaho and Wyoming, it's a lawsuit to ban bear baiting in Idaho and Wyoming. We thought it was going to be shot down and thrown out by a federal judge, but it continues. So this lawsuit is still on the books, and it is to stop bear baiting on national forests in Idaho and Wyoming. If you go back and listen to the episode I did with Toby Boudreau from the Idaho Department of Fish and Game, he will tell you how important and how devastating it would be to lose that ability. The lawsuit is based on, I think, because 10 grizzly bears have been killed, I don't know what span of time, over bait. I won't go into it, but I'm going to do a podcast because whether you're a resident or a non-resident, a state's ability to manage game is not something that we need to lose as hunters. Predator hunting is constantly under assault, and sometimes from within. There are people within our ranks. I'm telling you.
100%.
Yep.
100%.
You don't believe me? You can message me. I will tell you those people within our ranks that don't believe that baiting bears it should be done on an ethical platform. So if Blake Hunter doesn't think it's ethical, that's cool. You don't want to bait bears, you don't have to. The only reason I started doing it was because my vacation time wasn't going to line up with September, and I started doing it then. It is an imperative. It is imperative that departments have the ability to manage game and manage predators. And that's you don't have that. I mean, you talk about a threat to hunting. This is where it's coming from. It's from groups like the Western Environmental Law Center filing these lawsuits. And when a state can't manage their game, Alaska has done it with great success when they started baiting brown bears to lessen the population and to increase the mortality rate of their moose calves. It's worked. It's a tool. It works. So I'm passionate about it. I'm probably going to have either someone from Montana just to talk about it or Idaho, but you're going to hear more of it because it is a serious threat to the landscape of hunting in the West.
Well, I'm just looking at it from an outsider's perspective, but like North Idaho, where it's so thick, what's the probability of spotting and stalking a bear in North Idaho? None?
No, yeah, slim to none.
And I guess this came about because people accidentally shot grizzlies on bait.
I don't know. You're talking 10 bears. I'm not sure the span. I didn't read the whole article. I'm not sure in the span of years, but you're talking 5 years or something. I mean, you're talking 2 states.
Right.
Holy crap. Here's another one. How many grizzly bears has it saved? Now, I've seen black grizzlies, right? When you see a grizzly bear, you don't say, I think I saw a grizzly. You say, holy crap, because they're a different animal. They are shaped different. They have just their different characteristics. I've seen a black grizzly. So how many grizzly bears has it saved? How many, if you're just tooling through the brush in North Idaho and you see some black head and you see some black, going through the brush and stuff, you can't shoot a sow with cubs. So how many bears has baiting saved? So the basis of this lawsuit is ludicrous, but it will play to the courts. It will cost us money. And we're going to, I'm going to help get it out there and fight it any way we can because, I'm passionate about a state's ability to manage game.
And that's all it's about. That's all the baiting thing up there is about. That's basically the only effective tool other than, I guess, running dogs.
Yeah, they run dogs. Like in Unit 1, we have a healthy grizzly population there in Unit 1. There's a small portion that you can draw a permit to run dogs in Unit 1 because of the grizzlies, but there's no baiting in Unit 1. There's baiting in certain units throughout the state. I mean, it's strictly regulated, and you've got to have permits that are actually. I mean, it's a permitted bait site. I think it's more through for the Forest Service because you're putting something on the Forest Service land. Strictly regulated. But you listen to Toby Boudreau, and I asked him straight up, how devastating would it be for the department to lose that as a tool to manage predators, because they really had to up the harvest on bears and lions to make room for the wolves. I mean, that's really what it was all about. And, in the end, these groups, they don't want us hunting. I mean, that's what this is all about. They don't want us hunting. So they're going to attack and have for decades attack predator hunting so that if we have more predators, California, Washington, Oregon, Colorado, you take away spring bear, you take away baiting, you take away hound hunting, it's just chipping away. And it's so that, hands off. Let's just let Mother Nature do its thing. And look at Alaska. That don't always work.
Well, and what's people's gripe about baiting bears? That it's easy? Is that the ethical? Because I feel like that's. Well, I've never hunted bears over bait, so I'm talking out of my ass a little bit. But I feel like that's way off base.
No, that's a good question. So the short answer, for guys like we're talking about, we're not naming, he's going to say it's unethical because it's too easy. Or they're going to say, well, you're training bears to eat human food or interact with humans or be more bold. I speak for my experience. I'm not baiting in my backyard. I'm not baiting in someone's backyard. You're 17 miles from the last, or 20 miles from the last house. You're in the national forest. You're way back in there. So there's that aspect of it. You'll hear that a lot. Well, you're training them to interact with humans. I
know.
I see no evidence of that.
Yeah,
Zero.
I know how much work goes into baiting deer, and I can drive a Polaris Ranger up to all the feeders and dump corn into them. So I can't even imagine the amount of work that goes into baiting bears in a spot that you've got to hike in a mile or two.
Yeah, it's definitely a labor of love, and I haven't killed many bears off baits. I've had friends kill bears. That's been fun. It's super fun to go up and pull the trail camera down, and I have my kid. My kid has spent tons of times at bear baits. I don't know. Honestly, 15 years ago, and Dan, my buddy Dan Hooper will attest to it, 15 years ago, I was probably anti-bear baiting, not because I thought it was wrong. It's just zero interest in it. But once I started doing it probably 6 or 7 years ago, it's fun. It's another reason to be out there. But more importantly, it's a tool in the game manager's toolbox to use. And for hunters or, the like, or, people to push back on it, use the facts. Don't use emotions. If you don't want to do it, that's great. That's fine. But when you degrade people for doing it because it doesn't line up with your ethics, I think we see that a lot we see that a lot in the sporting world, and I think that's toxic myself.
Well, and I mean, you ate a bear tag hunting over bait this last year, right? But you were in there hunting a specific big bear. Am I wrong there?
Nope. Well, Frank, yeah, that last night, man, I kicked myself now. You never know, right? Hindsight's 20/20. But I thought Frank was going to show up that last night, and I thought I had him checkmate. But that sucker's smart, and he's so cool. But
you're speaking my language, man.
Oh, damn, you sucked me right into that.
You're speaking my language. Oh, no, but I mean, it all comes full circle. People want to tell you how easy it is. And then you go out and I mean, a guy like you spends how many days out there hunting this specific bear, and you held out all season and hunting over bait, the whole 9 yards, all the trips in there to run trail cams, all the trips in there to haul bait. And you wind up eating a tag.
Oh, it's
then somebody wants to tell you it's unethical and it's too easy. And it just, that guy
I doesn't
totally understand that perspective of it.
Yeah. That specific person we're talking about, he doesn't listen to podcasts, but somebody want to put a bug in his ear and he wants to come on here and debate it. I would love to, but,
yeah, it'd be great. I would love it too.
He's probably not
the moderator.
He's probably not gonna. No. I'm going to stop. I got to stop right now. Stop right now.
Take another drink.
No.
Take another drink.
No.
Bear Razorhead.
No, we're gonna Bear Razorhead. No. Anyways, to summarize, you're going to hear more. I'm going to have a guest on. I was just listening to the Meat Eater podcast, and Clay Newcomb was talking specifically about Washington State, specifically about the lack of hunter involvement with their with a specific game meeting. That actually was about spring bear. Really passionate. I want to hit this hard. Remind everybody that you need to be in the ear of the game managers. You have to be respectful. You have to have your voice heard. And for crying out loud, there's enough of us that it could make a difference if we would just pipe up.
So how could a non-resident chip in and help? Is there an email address or anything like that you can send an email to, or could we maybe link that in the show notes?
Well, right now, honestly, I'm not sure the route to take right now, but I am going to investigate it, and we will be, we will be running a letter campaign.
10-4.
Yeah, and this is not a state of Idaho thing. This is in federal court. I mean, we're not talking we're talking to, our local game managers. This is a federal lawsuit.
Right. Okay.
Being run by those lovely people that run them all the time.
Same folks.
Yep. All right. Done. We're off that. We'll get back on track now.
Well, do you have anything else you want to hit on before we hop off here?
I don't think so.
All right. I'm good if you are.
Yep.
You want to hit the sponsors real quick?
Yeah.
All right. I want to say thank you to Selway Archery, The Footed Shaft, Kifaru International, and of course, Black Widow Bows. Let's get out of here.
Right on. You and your brother.
Yeah, I was gonna abandon that. I'm growing my mustache out now, or lack thereof.
Oh, is that what that is? That's like chocolate milk.
Basically what it is.
Greg's got the mullet going on.
Yeah, it's pretty darn close now.
Yeah. Freaking
it's about time for a haircut.
Yeah, my wife.
Yeah, if it got that cold down here, I'd have a neck warmer too.
No, you wouldn't. You'd have to buy one. I'm taking a beating from my wife and my kid about this. Like, you got to cut your hair. I'm like,
As I said, I shaved just a little bit the other day, and then it's been like 30 or 28 to 30 degrees and windy, and I was freezing. Kicking myself for shaving at all.
What state are you in?
New York.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What part?
southern New York. I'm like an hour north of New York City.
I'll be damned. No shit. And you
Wow, you're not far from the Big Apple then, huh?
No, I can hop on a train and be there in like 40 minutes.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Not that I want to do that, but I could.
Yeah. You go kick Cuomo's ass.
Oh,
Well,
don't even.
mean, it's New York's kind of weird, right? Because pretty much the only Democratic area in the whole state is New York City, and the rest of it's pretty much farmland, right?
Yeah. I mean, the Adirondacks is the largest park in the U.S.
Yeah.
I mean, Adirondack State Park. I mean, it's bigger than Yellowstone.
Is it really?
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's mountains. I mean, it's rugged. So we head north, and it's a big state. It probably takes me, I think, 7-8 hours to get to Buffalo, New York. 7 hours, something. I mean, it's a big state.
Wow. Yeah, that is big.
Yeah.
So what all kind of hunting opportunities do you have there? I know you kill a pile of whitetails, and for those listen, this is Greg Krause. He kills a pile of whitetails, and what other hunting opportunities are there in New York?
There's all the small game. There's a lot of like rabbits and squirrels and things. Big game, we have deer and bear, and that's it.
So you don't have any moose or anything like that, like up in Maine?
No, there's moose that come into the state, but there's no season on them.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if y'all had them there or not.
No, we have a lot of black bear too, and really big bears, but there's no hounds, there's no baiting. So
yeah, it seems like I've seen a bunch of big bears come out of New York.
Yeah, I mean, every year we kill bears in like that 600-pound range, 500 to 600 pounds. Yeah.
Wow,
that's a lot of bear.
Yeah, that's that's a short, fat grizzly.
Yeah.
Well, everybody out here says, "Oh yeah, I saw a 300-pounder." Well, 300-pounder, is typically about 150 to 200. Yeah. So a legit 600-pound bear is a big bear.
Yeah, every year. I mean, I know they kill them in 400 to 600 pounds every single year.
Wow, that's like pigs. You hear people kill 300-pound pigs all the time, and I don't know that I've ever seen a 300-pound pig in my life, and I've killed a pile of them. People don't realize how big a 250-pound pig is.
That's huge.
It's like a giant pig. So how's your season gone so far this year? I know just talking back and forth with you, it's been fairly rough compared to what you're used to, but how's it gone so far this year?
Today was my last day, actually, so my season's over. Season in the county I'm in ends tomorrow, but I'm done. So today was my last day. It was all right. I shot 2 does early. I shot a nice buck a couple weeks ago, and then I ended up shooting a spike in the last week, I guess. So,
yeah, it was a great buck too. Great buck.
Yeah, it was. I took a day off from work and took a morning off from work because I knew the conditions were perfect, and I got in there and got it done at like 7:30 in the morning. It was nice.
Perfect conditions. Was it the rut was on or just the weather?
Well, we were starting to see bucks cruise for second rut, and we had a big snowstorm pushing in that night. We had an east wind, and I got a spot that's just killer with an east wind, and I just got in there, and we've shot a lot of deer in there in those conditions. So I told my boss, I said, I'll come in at 10 o'clock tomorrow. I'm taking half a day. So
couple things. What do you do for work?
I work for a school district.
Oh yeah.
Operations maintenance stuff.
Nice. And then, so these spots that you grew up hunting, I mean, you grew up right there in the area and you got
I lived, history? My grandfather built this house when he got out of World War II in the Navy.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, my kids are here. So, I mean, we've been here. It's generational.
That's awesome. That's pretty cool getting to hunt the same trees, and just see the changes and the memories. Yeah. I imagine you get in these tree stands and you have just tons of memories.
Yeah, he never hunted stands. I mean, it was long ago. I mean, he probably stopped bow hunting in like the mid 70s, my grandfather, something like that, I want to say. But he hunted the ground, so we still hunt the same properties. Luckily, like a lot of them have we've maintained permission. It's all I hunt is public here or permission. And we've maintained a lot of the same permissions, which is really, really cool.
That is cool. Now, let me, how close are you to the Berkshires?
I don't know, a couple hours probably.
Oh, okay, yeah. I've hunted out there a couple of times. That was actually absolutely beautiful. That was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the area I'm hunting here. I guess it's more suburban, but a lot of the properties are like, that we hunt are anywhere from like maybe 6 acres on a small property up to 40 or 50 acres. And then some of the public land is pretty large. The one place I hunt is a county park that they've opened for deer management, and that's 5,000 acres. So that's where I do like a majority of my hunting. It's really pretty rugged terrain, and it's a big park, so I can get away from people.
Yeah. So you would say you have better luck, and I hate to beat this drum to death, but you would say you have better luck getting away from people on the big or the big public than you do the small private.
I like small private because nobody's going to mess up my hunt. But if the deer aren't there, I can't do anything about it. On the bigger public lands here, a couple of them are, a few hundred acres, as I said, up to a few thousand. I can find the deer and I can get on them. Whereas if I'm stuck to a 6 acre or even a 50 acre parcel, if the deer aren't there, there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. Is when you're hunting a piece that small, you're just kind of married to whatever situation you're put into. There's not a whole lot of moving around. And I've not hunted a public for whitetails a bunch, but what little bit I have so far, I've really played off of everybody else's pressure more than I have actually looking for deer sign, more or less. In other words, if I know where there's some guys in there hunting, I'll kind of play off of where they're hunting and go in and hang a set maybe downwind of them or something like that. Is that something that you try to do, is play off of everybody else's moves, or do you have spots that are just traditionally pretty good?
A little bit of both. I try to find spots that nobody wants to go into. They're either further than most people want to walk, or like this particular place. A lot of the properties around here, you have to hunt from a tree stand. You have to take it in and out with you, because it's like open for public hiking and stuff. For safety reasons, they want people shooting out of trees down. So for years, nobody used sticks and hang-ons. Now everybody's doing it, but for years, nobody did that. Everybody had a climber. So I'd find small maple swamps that just had, no climbable trees in it. And I'd get in them with a lone wolf of salt and sticks and hunt places where I knew nobody else was going to go. And the deer would just stack up there because they were avoiding everybody else.
So you're required to hunt out of a tree stand?
Yes.
Wow, I never heard.
Not on all the properties, but a bunch of them, depending on the rules for the properties we're on.
No, are you talking state property or just somebody's private property and they make a rule?
A lot of it's county. Some of the property I hunt is owned privately, open for public use, like land conservancy properties, green space, things like that. So a lot of these properties have sort of town properties. They've opened it up for hunting, which traditionally wasn't years ago, but they've put certain rules in place. Each place I go is a little different. Some places you have to call in and call out of to let them know you're going to hunt and let them know you're out. Some places have designated parking areas. Some places actually have a big map at a kiosk, and you sort of pin into the area you're going to be hunting.
Wow.
It's to keep guys from stacking up on each other, but then I use that to watch where everybody else is and avoid them.
Yeah.
So that's a lot to keep up with. If there was a non-resident or even a resident coming in that wasn't familiar with all that stuff, that seems like it would be a lot to try and consume and keep up with.
So most of the properties I'm hunting here, you have to be sort of signed up for the program. There's proficiency tests to make sure you can actually hit what you're aiming at. It's not really, I think it's 4 out of 5 arrows and a 9-inch circle at 30 yards. It's not real high precision accuracy, but yeah, you have to sign up in advance. So it's not open for public hunting. I hunt a few of those properties, but a lot of the places I'm hunting, it's sort of a program you sign up for at the beginning of the year.
Interesting.
So that proficiency test, is it the same across compounds and trap?
Yeah, I don't know if there's anybody around here that hunts any of these properties with a trad bow other than myself.
So you have to qualify the same with a trad bow as you would with a compound. That's interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's designed, they're not really, it's not, the way the managers see it here is it's not really like for our recreation. We had a real deer population problem and they were trying to reduce it. So I don't think they ever took into account that guys were going to want to come in with stick bows. But the past few years, I've just, I hunt 50-50 stick bow compound. And this year was actually the first year I didn't even pick up the compound.
You just hit on something that I've been trying to point out for a few years. Like we talk in broad, we use a broad brush when we talk about game management, and using different weapons. So like in a state like, take New York, for example, your game commissioner, whoever makes sets the seasons, they might want to kill deer. And so they're looking at like getting the most people in the woods with the most, you could say egregious weapons, right? Maybe the air bow. Well, if we're going to kill more deer, we got to kill more deer. So I think when we talk about these hot button topics, you got to remember, like in the Western states, they're managing people, right? In a lot of the Eastern states, they want to kill stuff. I mean, they got to kill stuff. So I always find it interesting when people just try to have a cookie cutter plan for everywhere.
The cool thing about here was that we really did. People from New York will probably, dispute this, but in areas where I'm at, for a very long time, we were very overpopulated. I mean, it was nothing to see 20 or 30 whitetails in a sit when I was growing up. And we don't have any ag, no farmland. I mean, this is just wandering through the woods. And they just decimated the forest. There's no understory in a lot of areas at all. They've just eaten everything out. At one point they were averaging or figured about 60 to 70 deer per square mile. So, I mean, it was crazy.
You're kidding me. Stop and
insane.
think about that. 60 to 70 per square mile.
Yeah.
I mean, that's when you're talking diseases.
Yeah. And the county I'm in is archery only, so they didn't have any firearms, so they didn't know what to do. So they started putting together these archery only deer management programs to try to reduce the population, but nobody thought it was going to work. They were planning on hiring an outside company to come in with night vision and suppressors and sharpshoot them off bait piles. And then they put these programs into place, and the bow hunters, they proved they could get the job done.
So how many tags can you get in a year up there?
My county, it's unlimited. I can shoot 2 bucks, unlimited does.
That's pretty wild. So on average, how many deer every year do you kill?
The past few years, I'd say average like 6 or 7 deer a year with the bow.
Holy smokes.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot.
Smokes.
And how long have you been doing this?
This is my 25th year.
Wow. How long have you been shooting?
You've seen a lot of arrows go through a lot of critters then.
Yeah. I mean, there were years when they were really pushing. I was hunting also Connecticut with deer management programs. And between the two states, I was probably shooting 25, 30 deer a season with the bow.
Jiminy Christmas. Wow. Wait, you eat all that?
How many?
Giving that away or like?
Yeah, I had families that I would give it to. We also had like hunters feeding the hungry programs.
Yeah.
And I'd keep my family, and we eat like 3 to 6 deer every year, easy.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we don't buy red meat. It's venison. That's what we eat.
Yeah, anymore. If my freezer's full, the processor that I take my stuff to has usually got a list of families that want stuff, and you can donate it, and that's typically what I do.
Yeah.
It's wild to me, some of the stuff you see on Instagram, people claiming this or that is the best. And most of them may kill 1 deer a year, and they may have been hunting for 10 years. And I think guys like you are the guys that people should probably go and ask, because, I mean, you've probably killed stuff with just about everything that you can imagine, and that doing this 25 years and maybe killing on average 10 deer a year. What's your what's your arrow setup look like? What's your broadhead of choice or broadheads of choice? What's kind of your go-to killing rig? What have you seen the best luck out of?
So with my recurves and longbows, I come back to the same basic setup year after year. I'll change. I'll try something different, but I always come back to an Axis or one of the Axis traditionals. This year I'm running the iron wheel components, which I absolutely love. My heads for years have been the VPA 3 blades, generally inch and a quarters, but I'll run the standards. I also have cutthroats, now the 3-blade cutthroat and iron wheel all in my quiver. So I'll have all those different broadheads in the quiver. They all fly the same, and Easton Axis arrows. It's not, it's decent FOC, pretty heavy overall, but it's a great combination.
And durability, I'm assuming, is a lot of the reason for that.
Yeah. I'll reuse the arrows over and over again on deer unless like I'm stuck in the offside shoulder and they break it. But generally I'm picking them up out of dirt and cleaning them off and putting them back in the quiver.
Wow.
And what's your bow setup? Like what kind of poundage do you typically shoot?
I always settle in right around between 50 and 55 at 28, and I draw just right about 28.
So you're shooting probably what, a 600 grain arrow ish?
Yeah, depending on the year and the length I try to use and the head weight and everything, I'm usually between 600 and 700 grains.
And I think you and I have talked about it at one point. You've done some broadhead testing for, was it a magazine or somebody at some point?
It was a website that used to run, and the Archer's Edge, and they would do all sorts of like bro science testing in the yard on different things, and then if they did well, I'd take them out and I'd go hunt with them. But that was mostly with the compound.
So what kind of conclusions did you come to from that? I know that most of that's with a compound, but durability, I mean, a lot of the same principles apply. The arrow's got to go through the animal.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is you have to tailor your broadhead for what you want to do and what your setup is. I see a lot of guys pushing 2 blades, and that's great. But I've shot a lot of deer with 2 blades and had very little blood from, a cutthroat to a silver flame, whatever it is. It gets a job done, it'll kill them. But if you're shooting enough weight that you're blowing through whitetails, you don't really need the 2 blade. I rather throw a big 3 blade or something with bleeders. And then, also if it's a marginal hit at that point, you get back, you hit in the liver or a little bit in the gut, it's going to do more damage and kill them a little quicker.
You ever mess with single bevel much?
A little bit. I shoot the cutthroats a little bit. I don't know if it really does a whole lot more damage.
Yeah.
If I was hunting bigger animals or I was shooting less weight, I'd probably play around more with 2 blades and single bevels. But I just like bigger heads.
Yeah.
That's pretty much a similar conclusion to what I've come to in the last, 5-6 years is, I went through the whole facet of big mechanicals, small fixed blades, and everywhere in between. And I've pretty much just come to a middle ground. If I wasn't shooting iron wheels, I would probably be shooting like a VPA 3 blade or the cutthroat 3 blade. But that either those 3 blade heads or a quality head with bleeders seems to be kind of my happy place. And, I'm shooting fairly heavy poundage and fairly heavy arrows. So that probably has a lot to do with it. But I think most people with most setups I've got enough ass behind it to get through them with a 3 blade or a 2 blade with bleeders. So I've pretty much come to the same conclusion that if you're blowing through them and burying it 6-10 inches in the dirt on the other side, you're kind of wasting some potential there and ran into some problems because of it, finding stuff. So that's pretty much the same conclusion I've come to.
Yeah, my that bow I'm shooting this year, it's a Wharf bow. It's my dad's old compound, and I just threw some Black Max limbs on it, and it shoots really well, but it's not real quick. But even that, I hit a good sized doe, and she dropped a little bit this year. I shot her straight through the scapula, and I broke the offside leg and buried it to the fletching in that scapula. I mean, and she went 25 yards.
Dang.
So, and that was a big 3-blade broadhead.
See, and I've killed I killed several elk. I won't say a lot of elk. I killed several elk when Wenzel's built that head, and I used it for several years. I killed some bulls with it, but it just, to me, it was tough to sharpen. I just never could get a 3-blade as sharp as I could get a 2-blade with bleeders. And it just seems to me, in my redneck thinking, that 2-blade with bleeders, you're going to get better penetration. Of course, maybe it's a little different with deer. Maybe it's not as big a deal.
Yeah, I mean, an elk's it's a whole different ball game than a deer. But also, I mean, I used the original Wenzel Woodsmans and the Snuffers for a long time, but they were all brazed on blades, so it's hard to get them really true, to get them really sharp, and they were vented. And around here, it's all glacial deposit rock. I mean, it's rocks everywhere you go, and 2 inches under the dirt is rocks. So if I passed through a deer or I missed a deer, the head was smoked. It was done. Something with like a solid VPA, I can put it back on a file and then on a stone and get it really sharp again. And it takes an edge way better.
Yeah, I think when I gave up on Woodsman, I still have some. I carry them during turkey season, but I think I gave up on when I hit a coyote at the base of the skull and it completely collapsed. And I was like, really? This is not a good plan.
Yeah, I would say, Rob, to your point, I would say a 2-blade with bleeders that has really good edge retention definitely probably out-penetrates a 3-blade. But again, it's how far you want to measure into the other side of the dirt on the other side of them. So
yeah, just like I said, my redneck brain. I think
what?
That's my redneck brain, the way it worked. It just seemed like, you're definitely going to get better penetration with that 2-blade and bleeders.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I came to the 2-blade with bleeders. Is it seemed like the best of kind of all worlds. It's a penetrating design, but it's got that cross cut that keeps that hole open. So it just seemed like kind of the best of all worlds, and I've been super happy with it since. And you've shot some deer with iron wills, haven't you, Greg?
Yeah, I have. One of the ones I shot this year hit with an iron will. I shot one the year before with an iron will, and that's it's an amazing head. But for me, it's like
Price.
I launched one at a coyote this year, and he ducked underneath it pretty hard, and that landed in the rocks. So I'll be able to fix it up, or have to get new blades for it, and it just becomes a price thing at some point. If I was hunting moose or elk or something, I'd certainly be using an iron will probably.
Yeah, and even for me, knowing Bill and being able to get my hands on the heads fairly easily, even whenever I go pig hunting, it's generally like a Magnus or something on the end of my arrow, because even if the broadhead was free, it still sings a little bit whenever it sails off into the woods somewhere. So let me ask you this. Have you done any out-of-state hunting? You said Connecticut earlier, but have you hunted out west any at all, or do you have any aspirations to?
Yeah, I spent a bunch of time up in Montana for a few years. I have some friends up there. We chased some elk around.
What part?
We got into a lot of elk.
What part? What part of Montana?
We hunted a few different spots. The last couple of times we were up over near like Two Dot.
It must be east.
No, that's out towards like I think that's like central.
Okay, yeah.
So we were out that way. We were out that way chasing elk for quite a few years. We went out and chased them, but we ended up like there was big pieces of leased property in and around, and we'd look down. I mean, it was no joke. We'd see 250 elk a day sometimes, but they're down on leased ground. And we'd just be trying to catch stragglers coming over onto the BLM or whatever we were hunting.
Yeah.
I hunted out of Durango a couple years ago in Colorado. Didn't even hear an elk that week we were there. We ended up seeing a lot of black bears. I should have spent the whole trip focused on bears because we saw a few bears. And in hindsight, I should have just focused on trying to kill a bear. I had a tag, so
Yeah, I've had a bear experience in Colorado. Last year, we were up there on that high country hunt, and after I shot my buck, we packed it out. We're coming back out to the truck, and super excited to get back, get more food, go back in, and got back to the truck, and a bear had literally eaten through the lid of about a $400 cooler and ate like 14 days worth of food between both of us. And had quite the mess to clean up when we got back. So after we packed my buck out, we had to drive down off the mountain, like 45 minutes, hour into town, go find a place to get some food. And we ate ramen noodles and peanut butter and jelly tortillas the rest of the trip we were out there. We had all this $high backpacking food and everything else. And bear ate every freaking bit of it.
Oh, that's funny.
So I got a score to settle in Colorado with a bear somewhere.
Yeah, we were up in the San Juan Mountains, and we saw the first day we got there, saw a really nice blonde, good sized bear, and then we bumped into two really dark bears at different times, but we found like bear tracks, bear droppings. I mean, it was just the whole mountain's covered in bear sign, and I should have spent the time trying to call them in or something, or just really working on some bear sign.
No, Colorado's got a big time black bear problem from what I understand. You got to be pretty careful about leaving food in the back of your pickup, and because he climbed in the bed of the truck, dented the side of the truck, trying to get to all that food. And so I was a lot more cautious this year whenever we went up there to keep all my food locked inside the truck and like in some kind of container.
That's crazy.
Getting back to your deer hunting, I wanted to ask you, what do you do for scent control, or do you do anything?
I'm pretty crazy about it. I mean, not crazy, but I like ozone wash my stuff. I have it looks like I call it my Dexter room. It's in the shed. I have plastic tarps all over the place. And I hang my clothes up and then I'll run an ozone machine just to sort of kill the human scent that's on it. It beats it up a little bit, but not as bad as trying to wash it in the washing machine a couple times a week. And then I'll keep it in scent-free totes. I'll spray down with dead downwind, and I'll play the wind as best I can going in. I'll try to make sure I never step where a deer is going to cross my trail.
You wear rubber boots, or you spray your boots, or what are you doing there?
I wear rubber boots and I spray them. Yeah. And because a lot of times when 90% of the time I kill a deer, I'm like cheating the wind and I'm just barely in my favor. And I'll carry those either little cotton puffs or milkweed, and I leave it on my sleeve. And the whole time I'm in the stand, I'm dropping them and watching where the currents are going, like every 5 minutes. And I'm always watching where they're going, because if a deer pops out there, I want to be ready and know exactly where it's going to catch my wind, because I might have to try to make that shot happen a little quicker than I would if I can let it get closer and give it some more time.
Interesting.
And you don't run any kind of ozone in the stand, do you?
No.
Do you have just one of those commercial? I mean, you can buy those commercial ozone machines, fairly reasonable. Or do you have one of the ozonic?
I think mine was like $50 on Amazon.
Yeah.
No, I that's something I'm going to look into is get some kind of ozone set up at the house for the clothes, because like you were saying, spend a lot of money on high-dollar technical clothing and then wash it every time you want to go hunting, and it does get rough on it. So that's definitely something I'm going to look into.
Especially for me, like I hunt. Our season's 3 months long, and I'll hunt 6 days a week. I'll try to hunt. I mean, I hunt a lot. So, and we're hiking in far, and I try to layer up when I get there, whatever else. But they get sweated up.
Yeah. Does that, you say that ozone, does that hurt the clothes as well?
Some of the elastics it can damage. I'm told. I don't like ozone my rain gear because I don't know how it's going to react with that. But my basic clothes, it doesn't seem to do too much damage to. I had a pair of long johns, and after a number of years, the elastic around the ankles, around the waist, started to stretch. But I don't know if the ozone, contributed to that, or it's just
all my underwear and long johns after a number of years have stretched. So I don't think it's the ozonics. It's just speaking personally.
Gosh. Yeah, probably the most important layers to make sure are clean. I always try and make sure my base layers are clean. And then whatever layer I'm going to wear to the stand, my outer layer that I put on once I get to the stand, I don't worry as much about because I don't really ever sweat in it. And then I spray down when I get to the stand. But the base layer is the biggest thing for me. So you say you hunt marginal wins a lot. Talk about that for a minute and why is that? And, how did you come to that conclusion, I guess?
Yeah, for years I didn't pay attention to the wind, and that just hurt me real bad. And then I started paying attention to the wind, like, for so long I was told, if you want the wind directly in your face and the deer coming straight towards you. And when we had a lot of deer here, it worked. But you didn't see a lot of mature deer really doing that. So now I finally just sort of put the pieces together after years, and I just sort of just skirt the wind. I know it's going to not necessarily be in my favor. Hopefully the deer thinks it's in their favor, and a lot of times I'm playing the thermals more than I'm playing the wind.
Okay. And since you've started using the ozone for your clothes and gotten really anal retentive about your scent control, do you feel like that has made a difference in the amount of deer you see? And if anything, maybe just buys you a few seconds if one does get downwind of you?
Yeah, I don't get winded nearly as much. Or if I do, I feel like it's sort of like a soft bump. I'll get a deer that kind of gets downwind and gets a whiff of me and kind of knows something's off and leaves. And my whole thing is the deer maybe thinks I was there earlier in the day, or maybe thinks I'm a little bit further away. But I'm not really getting like snorted and stomped and blown at like I would in the past.
I'll say this is the first year that I changed and got serious about my scent control. And I'm sure I saw deer that typically would have blown out, that either, like you said, just kind of like, yeah, I'm not sure everything's cool here, and leaves. And of course, that's good because they didn't carry everything else with them. And I know that I saw critters come from downwind and pass right through. So for me, it's made a difference.
Well, for me, I use the ozonics a lot, especially hunting over bait, just because it's almost impossible hunting over bait to not get winded at times because they're going to circle it naturally. But moving forward, I'm going to try and get away from that as much as I can, just because, number one, it's a pain in the butt to carry it around. But number two, I just want to kind of change the way that I'm approaching some things, and kind of trying to draw a line in the sand somewhere at some point. And like over in Oklahoma, that public piece that I've been hunting, I really haven't been using it at all over there, but it's also a completely different style of hunting. I'm moving around a lot, trying to be aggressive. I'm not necessarily as concerned about bumping a deer over there as I would be on private. Our deer on private, I'm to a point kind of babying them a little bit, just trying to keep them on our side of the fence as much as possible, and playing the patience game. Whereas on the public land stuff, I'm not really over there hunting a specific deer. I'm just over there hunting a good mature buck. So if I get in there and happen to have one smell me or bump one out of there, I'll just move the next time. And but scent control for me has been a big time game changer. And ozonics is a small piece of that. But even just keeping my clothes washed and taking showers and scent-free totes, and I've started using Evercalm on my boots, and that seemed like that's made a difference. Just the little things. It's just.
You chew Copenhagen and stand?
No, well, if I do, just do not do this, kids. If you're listening, I don't spit. So,
it's better than saying you swallow.
I don't mouth breathe.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know. It just seems like it's made a huge difference for me. Just the little things, because that ozonics helps a bunch, but it doesn't help if you smell like a sweaty armpit. You're still going to get winded with ozonics.
For me, it's all like a game of like little increments. So if this helps you 1% and this helps you 0.5% and this helps you 0.75%, I mean, you can't measure it, but that's the way I try to think about it. So at the end of the day, you do all these steps and you're 10% more effective. That's huge.
Yeah. No, I would agree. I think, yeah, I would agree. Did they sell scent lock clothes anymore? I think I asked that question before. Do they
They still do.
Do they? Made a lot of money over the years with that.
They made money off of us. I mean, there was a point there where we were trying everything that we could try just to cut down our scent. And it like I said, it hasn't been to the last 4 or 5 years that I feel like that I've actually got a routine now that works. And it's, like I said, it's paid off big. But the scent lock thing, I think that whole deal was a freaking sales pitch.
They got a bunch of money from me. I had, or mid 2000s probably. I had scent lock boots. I had the sneakers, the gaiters on them. I had the scent lock hoods. I had everything.
Yeah, and I'm not judging because they did a good job of promoting and marketing, and I'm not saying it didn't work, but maybe it didn't work to the extent that they claimed.
It wasn't what it was cracked out to be. I don't even know that it really helped other than a placebo effect, but
yeah,
we had the bags that you're supposed to keep them in, the whole freaking nine. We had all that stuff. And yeah, I don't know that it made any difference because I think we said this on a podcast at some point, but I think the science to that is it would work, but you have to heat the clothes to like 1,000 degrees to activate the carbon in it or something. I'm no scientist, so don't quote me on this, but it's something crazy. Like your clothes would obviously catch on fire and burn.
That placebo effect, though, don't discount that because I think if you hunt confident, you hunt better. You're more on your game. You're like paying attention and little things aren't slipping by you because you're not like messing around on your phone or snapping or bird watching. You're ready to get the job done.
Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely.
There is 110% something to that because it on days when I feel like I've kind of half-assed my scent control or something, just half-assed something or rushed out or whatever. When I get to the stand, I don't pay near as much attention as if I felt like I'd done everything right that day. So I'm like, I half-assed it anyway. I'm not going to see nothing. So there's something to that. You're hit the nail on the head there. There's definitely something to the placebo effect, making you more efficient and a better hunter.
So, Greg, you're pretty active in social media. You're active in the scene. What's your take on where we're going? Where the, for the lack of a better term, where's the sport going? The recruitment. Got anything to add, got anything to plug in on that?
Yeah, I think, like specifically, like trad bows, man. I think it's blowing up and it's great. I'm seeing more and more people coming from compound. And I think it's great with we have Blake here. He came from compound. You guys embrace it. The push guys embrace it. It's starting to become embraced that this is where our numbers are coming from. This is the first year I've been hunting with a stick bow since 2005. I've killed deer every year with one since 2005. This is the first year I have not picked up the compound.
Wow.
So I think that's really important. Seeing Aaron come over, shooting, killing everything in the compound and then coming and falling in love with shooting a stick bow. I think that's big. There's a lot of this sort of transition. And for so long, the old crusties, as everyone said, they didn't embrace it. They had their thing and they looked down on the guys with the compounds that want, or, it's just, we're seeing a lot of guys come over and take it more and more seriously. And as that goes on, more and more guys are converting even fully to shooting a stick bow.
Yeah, somehow, and Aaron obviously has had a big part of it, but let's face it, like not everybody has come over because of Aaron, right? So he's a big part of it, but at some level, it's become cool. And I just come up with that like 3 weeks ago. It's like, this isn't all just about the challenge. Somehow it's become cool. And that has helped. Somebody asked me about 4 or 5 months ago, messaged me out of the blue, never talked to this guy before. he said, "Hey, how many people do you think will stick with this?" And at the time, I said, "Well, I don't think a lot of people." Actually, this is close to a year ago. I said, "I don't think a lot of people, because if they don't have success, I don't think they're going to stick around." But man, I don't get that feeling right now, because it does seem to be cool and people are willing to put the work in and maybe not kill anything for a couple years. And they're used to killing things with a compound. But yeah, it's just all positive, but I like to try to understand what's going on here. I don't know that I ever will.
I think some of it is, the resources available now through some of the stuff on YouTube, through some of the stuff like Tom Clum's putting out. There's a ton of resources. And it's easier now, not that it's easy, but it's easier now to find resources to make it so you can be successful.
Yeah, and I know for me, I've said this in an Instagram post before. I think guys getting into it kind of feel like that they have to be one or the other right off the bat. They have to be a compound guy or a trad guy. And for me, it helped because I jumped in with both feet. I sold everything. And I don't think that was the best idea for me personally. I think that there's a lot of people that are a lot better with dealing with not filling your tag better than I am. And that's just me being honest. I don't do very well with it. So for me at first, it was a good idea to kind of bounce back and forth a little bit. And I'm not saying that I won't still. I hope I don't. But, I just want people to understand that there's nothing wrong with bouncing back and forth until you get your feet under you, until you feel confident. Because at the end of the day, there's nothing worse than not having any confidence in your weapon. That's not any way to be going into the woods.
Yeah, I'm not sure I advocate what Greg did here, though. You talk about a guy that's not willing to commit. 2005, 15 years? Come on, Greg. How long were you engaged to?
New York,
Yeah, how long were you engaged to your wife? You got to commit, dude.
So how I started with it was, we were shooting a lot of deer at the time, and it got to the point where I was debating whether I wanted to shoot the deer in front of me. And I was shooting a compound, and I'd shoot some pretty long ranges, and I was seeing a lot of deer, and it was losing its like the fun of hunting. And I was like, this isn't right. So I picked up a stick bow just to start hunting does. And what I would do then is I would hunt mostly with the compound, and I'd have like a setup somewhere that I knew was a really good tight pinch point that had a lot of does going through it. And I'd hunt that specific setup with a stick bow, but nowhere else. So I might only hunt 5 or 10 sits a season with a stick bow for a little while there, but I'd usually shoot a doe or two off a very specific spot. As I went on, I started hunting with a compound only for does early season, late season, and I just chased bucks during the rut with the stick bow because that was what really fired me up. So I did that for a while. And then now the past handful of years, it's been just sort of, if I go to a spot and I know it's really wide open and it's longer shots, I bring the compound. If it's anywhere else, I bring the stick bow. And then this year it was just like, well, I can get it down to stick bow and I'm having more fun with that. And I just didn't have any motivation to shoot the compound this year at all.
2005 probably wasn't a real, I'm trying to remember, it probably wasn't a real rich environment. How do I say it? I don't think trad bows were cranking in 2005.
No, I knew a guy, I met a guy that shot compound and shot trad bow, and he was a really good shot. And I went up and saw him, and he gave me some pointers, and he had me shooting 3 under with a really high anchor on my cheek. And I was shooting a Nap Flipper 2 rest, and I could actually trim the rest back and actually use it to gap off the wire of the rest and use it almost like a sight pin. And that's how I started. And I picked it up in July or August, and I killed it. My first deer was a 6.5-year-old buck I killed in October.
Seriously?
It was my 3rd sit.
Seriously? Damn.
But but yeah, and I caught hell from the compound guys because I was shooting stick bow, and I caught hell from the stick bow guys because I was shooting a rest and I was gap shooting.
Yeah.
I mean, it was brutal. It was
Yeah.
really, there was no love between the groups at that point, at least where I was.
And do you see the narrative kind of changing? Obviously you've been doing this the last 15 years. Have you seen the narrative change quite a bit in the amount of time you've been doing it?
I think so. Maybe I just don't care anymore. I don't listen to anybody, but yeah, I think it's changed quite a bit. I think we're getting a lot of these crossover guys, and people are picking it up and going back and forth, and it doesn't have to be one or the other.
I look at my group, my bubble here in Sandpoint, Idaho, and I look at how many guys that are killers that watched me and two other people for years. We'd show up at leagues, shooting a stick bow. We'd show up at 3Ds, and there was no animosity. We were just all having fun. And over the years, how many of these guys now have stick bows, and not all hunt with them. Well, I can think of a couple guys that don't hunt with them, but they'll shoot them year round, and then hunting season they'll pick up their compound. Well, I mean, it's like, why hammer that guy? Why be a jerk to that guy? Because you're cultivating them. I mean, that's really what it is. You're cultivating people so that when the time is right, they'll come around.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the one thing I want people to realize is don't feel the pressure that you have to do one or the other, or that you have to, that since you practiced all summer that you got to hunt with it. If you're not comfortable with it, you're not confident with it, then by all means don't. But at some point, like, maybe you'll be ready, and maybe that's when you go. But it doesn't have to be so black and white.
Well, I will tell you this: if tomorrow, this is something that just struck me. If tomorrow, the Idaho Fish and Game said we're going to propose a traditional archery season in Unit XYZ, they actually did that in, gosh, I forget the years. I was a representative for the Idaho State Bowhunters. They proposed some traditional seasons. The animosity and blowback and anger and hatred was, big from the compound guys. But where we're at today, I don't think you'd see that. You're going to get pushback. You're going to have serious conversations, but I don't think you're going to you would see the animosity that we saw 15 years ago when those were initially, and that is all due to just what you're talking about. Like, yeah, give it a try. You want to help? Give it a try. There's no pressure.
Yeah, and that may be regional. I don't know.
Yeah,
I just feel like down here, because there's areas down here, especially like in the hill country, it's similar to where Greg's at. They want to kill as many deer as they can. I'm like, well, okay, you want to kill as many deer as you can, add 2 weeks on the beginning archery season and call it traditional only. Well, but then
I'm specifically talking about there's just a relationship between compound shooters and stick bow shooters. I just think that's more healthy today. And I'd say that across the country, it's probably healthier. We can have Levi Morgan on here and talk about stick bows. I think it's healthier today than it was 10, 15 years ago.
Well, I had the attitude, 10 years ago, whenever we were running around shooting 3Ds all the time with our compounds, that the stick bow guys were, number one, couldn't hit anything, and number two, didn't like any of us. So we were all like, piss on them.
You're just a punk, though. Pretty sure.
Still am.
Yeah, I would agree to that.
I'm just an older punk.
Not old enough yet. You're still punk.
Oh man. No, but I think it's definitely, if I had came up in the climate that it was 15 years ago, I wouldn't have ever picked up a stick bow 15 years ago. I don't think, with the people that I had been around and the people that I had conversed with about it, and just the aura that they gave off to me. And I definitely think that that's changed a lot because it just seems like that there's, I guess, more, and maybe there always was open arms. I'm sure there was. It's just it was harder to find them then. Is probably most of it.
You got a 3D scene there, Greg, or do you shoot 3D? You have local clubs, part of the state club.
There's a lot of 3Ds. There's local clubs. I don't shoot 3D. Basically, since I hunt every day, 3 months out of the year, if I want to like stay married and like, you know, have my children with me, I have to like give up everything else I do the rest of the year. I don't bass fish anymore. I don't do much of anything. I'm shed hunting, I'm scouting deer, I'm hunting deer, and that's sort of, I've donated all my time to that. Like, that's it.
Well, and you keep your kiddos really involved with that too. It seems like, talk about that for a minute. Cause I think that's something important for people to hear because I mean, I've had to do pretty much the same thing bow hunting is just my thing now. That's just, I don't have time to, take off and go shoot 3D tournaments. I don't have time to go, do a lot of the other things that I used to like to do in the off season. And, keeping the kids involved is a big thing. So why don't you talk about that for a second?
Yeah. I got 2 little girls, 4 and 6, and they're with me for all of it. I mean, I'll shoot deer and I'll call my wife and, the kids are screaming in the background. They're getting dressed. They're getting the tracking lights out and they're coming to get the deer. They're going to drag
awesome, man.
And they're getting good at tracking. My 6-year-old, she's been skinning animals with me and cutting deer up. We have a walk-in cooler. So she comes out in the walk-in cooler with me and helps me butcher. She helps me skin out the deer. And like now this year, she's finally like really a help. In the past she like helped, but it was just to keep her involved. And this year she can like do stuff. She can help.
No kidding. It's 6?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah. And we've been squirrel hunting since she was 3. She came with me squirrel hunting all the time. And she'd be the one like this year, she's pulling the heart out of the deer and she's sticking her finger through the heart and be like, look, the hole goes all the way through it, and she wants to be part of all of it.
That's awesome.
Squirrel hunting, we go out in the morning, we'll bring, that's where it is. I think with kids, everybody wants to wait till they're old enough to deer hunt. And then there's all this pressure and you're sitting there for hours and hours and hours and you're freezing your butt off and there's, high stakes and it just doesn't work out great for kids. So I think like small game with my daughter at squirrels, we go out, we bring hot chocolate, we bring granola bars, we sit on a stump, we, talk quietly to each other. We have a really good time and we have enough action to shoot some squirrels. Oh. And that's where like we started and we keep going back to that. And that really keeps everyone like just fired up about it.
Oh man, you hit the nail on the head. Small game. And then you're gearing down to like, I'm going to go out and hang out with my kid. We shoot some squirrels. That'll be awesome. But I'm going to hang out with my kid. And man, that's awesome.
And they learn a lot of woodsmanship. I mean, my daughter now, I'll take my 6-year-old daughter and I'll put her against half the hunters out there to find. I mean, she's picking up scrapes. She's picking up rubs. We were doing some scouting earlier in the season because we were just having a tough time getting on deer. And she was like, Daddy, I think this is a big buck track. And it was on dry ground on the side of a hill.
Really?
Not mud, not anything else. And she found a really good buck track. I mean,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So I think that's it. Keep it fun, She was actually upset today because it was the last day of season. I was going out and she wanted to come with me. And she got distracted and went bike riding instead, which is, I kind of wanted to get out and actually get a real chance tonight. But we're going to go next week. We're going squirrel hunting again. So whether it's tracking, whether it's shed hunting, she's found a couple sheds on her own now. So we'll do shed hunting together all spring and scouting, and she'll help me prep trees and just involved in all of it.
That is awesome on so many levels in today's world.
Well, it gives us hope for the future, at least. I've tried to keep my kids as involved as I can from a super young age to, knowing where their meat comes from the time they were 2 and 3 years old to, now I try anytime that one of us shoots a deer, I try to get them out there and get them involved in it so that they know what all goes on and that Daddy's not just out, screwing around basically. And pigs is our squirrels down here. They're a little bit bigger squirrel, but go out and dump a bag of corn on the ground, sit there with the kiddos. You don't have to be super quiet, and see if some pigs will run out in front of us.
And that's what it's about, having fun. And you said, whether it's, eating the game. I mean, we bring my daughter, she loves cooking with us. I think she was 4 years old, my oldest. And we were somewhere and someone served some meat and she wanted to know what it was and who killed it. She didn't realize you could buy meat at the store. She thought I was kidding. I'm like, no, they bought that steak at the store. And she's like, Daddy, stop teasing me.
Oh, that's
she didn't know you could do that.
That's actually really funny. I made lamb chops tonight and they asked me what we were eating. And I told them, I said, well, that's lamb. And Madeline looks at me and she says, you shot a lamb? And I said, no, babe, we bought it at the store. And she couldn't really wrap her head around it. Like, I can't believe you would shoot a lamb, Daddy.
That's awesome. I think probably pulling a number out of my head, probably 4 blood trails that I did with my son when he was, I think the youngest was 4 years old, and putting a headlamp on him. Now, I'd already found the deer, and went and got him and put the headlamp on him, and Jiminy Christmas, and, like 6 inches of snow, and he's following the blood. The headlamp is on him, and it's all in the trees. He's just like, his head's flopping around. And it was only like 25, 30 yards, and he's like, his feet are against the deer before the headlamp the light goes down to the deer, and then it's just an explosion. Like, oh, the deer's right here. Ah, geez, you can't replicate that stuff. I only hope that that he remembers that.
It's fun. I remember going on like blood trails with my dad. My dad, he always hunted, but he was never like, he hunted here and there, and he got some deer, but it wasn't often. And I remember those days like really, really clearly, just special fun days. And, my kids now all the time, that's what they want to do, stuff outside. And we have 5,000 acres right behind the house, and every day they're out there, looking for squirrels, or finding tracks in the stream and finding mink tracks, or they're building forts and they're swinging on vines. And I think, the more you get people connected with the outdoors in whatever aspect it is. I hate fishing. I don't like it.
You don't like fishing?
My daughter loves it, so guess what? I like fishing now.
Yeah, you don't like fishing?
I bow fish. I shoot carp with a bow.
I can take it or leave it.
Yeah.
Personally,
I've had to leave it because, just like you said, I've had to cut some things out of my life, because you can't be in the woods and neglecting your family year round. I mean, you gotta.
Well, I mean, kind of to your point, Greg, my fondest memories, and I've tried to explain this, to people before, but they get confused on, being gone and hunting and things like that. And, taking the kids out late at night to go track a deer or whatever. And people don't understand it. And I just tell them the easiest way I can that my fondest memories growing up were things like that. I mean, all of the things that I can remember of me whenever I was little, I mean, 9 out of 10 are in the woods doing something. And, I think that's super important. I think that's super important to get them out there and, so that they understand it when they are 10, 15, 20 years old. And even if they grow up and don't want to hunt that much, as long as they understand it and had those experiences whenever they were little.
That's the important part. If my daughters decide to never hunt as they're older, that's fine, but I want them to understand it, respect it, and look favorably on it. It's just like, we talk about trying to, how many hunters, how we're minority and the anti-hunters and this and that, but a large percentage of the population is sort of non-hunters. And those are the people we can sway. And if you have kids that grow up and they have friends and they can influence their friends, even if none of them hunt, if they can look favorably down, upon hunting, it's much different than swaying the other way and thinking we're just out there, just massacring things and just, not really, not what it's about.
let alone the women in hunting. Period. I mean, they've always been there, but I think the light is getting shined a little bit more. I mean, we've had a handful of gals on, moms, and just and hunters. I mean, they're not just like for show; they're actually hardcore hunters, and I mean that only helps our cause.
I think.
You just go ahead, Greg.
Well, I just think it's sort of like how we've sort of become more accepted. We were saying of like, compound guys and stick guys getting along. I think it's the same with women. I think for a while it was really a boys' club.
Yeah.
And they didn't have opportunities, or they didn't feel like they had opportunities.
And weren't recognized.
Women that have gotten into hunting, and now they're like, okay, it's a thing that we can do now, same as anybody else, and it's great that they feel that they can, actually do what they probably wanted to do from the beginning.
Yeah, and recognized as being not just a woman hunter, but a hunter.
One of my best friends in Montana, her dad raised her to hunt, and she's a hunter. I mean,
yeah,
she's a killer. I would not want to be downrange of her if she was pissed at you. I mean,
that speaks to a lot of women.
She said in high school she used to outshoot her boyfriends and stuff all the time at the range, and she had to start throwing shots so they didn't leave her.
That's good. That's good.
So for probably people like me.
That's funny.
Oh, that's funny. That's really funny. No, I think it's all great. Unfortunately, the industry shines the light, I think, on the wrong women sometimes. And that's kind of the unfortunate part, because there is a lot of women out there who get it done on a very regular basis and know what they're doing. And, hopefully that's something that will change going forward. Because I do think that that's a bad look.
No, I think it is changing. I think because we and I say we as collectively, because we do highlight hunters and women hunters, and I think that makes it apparent that. You see that picture I sent? And she was from Texas, I might add. You saw that picture I sent, Blake?
Oh yeah,
I saw first deer. She's got all dolled up, and that was one staged picture there, my friend.
I think the other thing too is that if it's just the industry, then they're going to put those, quote unquote huntress pictures up there and those models up there. But now that we do have social media, I mean, they're still pushing that, but you're seeing real people come through on Instagram.
Yes.
And they can really post what they're actually doing. And they're, gaining popularity and gaining following because people want to see what's real.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's almost an even playing field with this Instagram. It's damn near an even playing field when, I don't know, our feed isn't filled up with this weird crap we see get pointed out. I don't want to go too deep in the weeds here, but no, you're right. You're right. It's like an even playing field, and we have the opportunity to showcase real people. We just need to recognize them as just real hunters.
It's sort of the same thing with hunting videos now. I mean, 90s, it was really like, 250 kills in 9 minutes or, whatever it was.
Yes, that's right.
Right. And it's like, and that's all that was. And that didn't do us any favors. Not to say it wasn't amusing to watch at times or anything else, but it didn't paint hunting in a light in which of what it really is. And now you still have a bunch of crap on YouTube, but there's also really great stuff coming out.
Yeah.
From high-end people like Donnie Vincent all the way down to just average Joes doing really nice stuff. Really good film content and showing what it's about and telling a story. So having social media and YouTube, it really opens up that, some realism.
Yeah, and that was going to be my next comment is outdoor TV is probably one of the biggest problems, or some of it anyways. I was scrolling through Facebook, it may have been today, and I'm not throwing shots at Tim Wells. I'm sure he's a good guy, but his videos if an anti-hunter went in and watched those, they would think we were the biggest freaking asshats there ever were. And guy running around throwing spears at stuff and everything else. And it just, it is a good thing that with social media and YouTube, that now the voices that get heard don't get picked and choosed, at least not as much as they once did. The vast majority of people now, I would say, on YouTube and Instagram and things like that are good for the outlook on the hunting industry. It's just a select few that aren't. And that's certainly positive. And much like you, Greg, I mean, you're not a super well-known guy by any stretch of the imagination, but I mean, you get it done year after year after year after year, and you do things the right way. And, it's people like that we need to be highlighting.
And that's why he's on here.
I don't do any of this, for the following. I just sort of post what I do, but I get messages from people, and it's really cool when I get messages from someone saying, hey, I'm going to try this, or I'm going to try that, or I want to, do this or do that, or thanks for putting that up. And it's neat to get that it somehow just doing what I'm doing is, influenced even anybody positively.
Yep. It's certainly pretty cool. You got to take the good with the bad, but there's a lot more good that we see than bad. And we get messages all the time. Hell, we got one, I think today or yesterday, of a guy. I posted a thing on our story, a compound guy that's here local. He's been listening to the podcast because he saw it on my Facebook, and he's like, man, I'm going to have to try this stick bow thing. And I posted it up on our story, and a guy replied to it, and he was like, man, I all I've ever shot is a compound. I've been listening, and, I'm going to give it a shot. And, that's what this whole thing is about. And, it makes it fun to get the positive messages and, see how you're affecting people positively. It makes it all worth it.
I can't believe how many messages we get, and it's been going on for a year plus. How many messages we get from guys that say, hey, I don't shoot a compound, but I love the podcast. Or excuse me, I shoot a compound, but I love the podcast. And I'll tell you, that kid that sent the picture a few months ago, that sent us a picture and said, hey, I know this isn't a stick bow kill, but this is what I shot this year. I love the podcast. It was like, wow, he's like 14 years old. That still gives me chills to even say that. How awesome is that? We're speaking to a 14-year-old kid, and he's excited to show us his kill. I mean, it's out of the park, man. Plus, I think I got to give a shout out to the UPS fleet here in Sandpoint and Bonner County. They all listen. They all listen, and none of them shoot a stick bow. So keep the packages rolling, guys. Thanks for listening. He's actually my UPS driver drove in the driveway just 3 or 4 days ago. My bow was sitting on the tailgate of my truck, and I have my man cave there is where my target is, and he sticks his head out of the truck and says, hey, I was just asking can you hit the broadside of that barn? Like, yeah, actually I just did. There's an arrow right there.
There's a few holes in it.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff, man. We're going in a great direction. And again, Greg, thank you so much for jumping in on the youth giveaway there. I Hunt Close Track Kill 2020. So appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. I sent you a message there. It was like, I remember like people helping me out when I first started. And I was older, but I was still, young and broke. And the first stick bow I bought, I was shooting an indoor league compound. And there was this guy, John Smith. I don't know where he is this day, but he said, hey, you want to shoot a stick bow? Because I said, yeah. And he goes, I shoot him a little bit. And he sold me a Howitt stick with a Selway quiver on it for $95.
Howitt stick? I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
That's the name of the bow, was stick?
Yeah, it's a Howitt. So it's like I guess that was pre-Martin. But yeah, it's just the stick.
Yeah.
It was like a hill style D-shaped longbow.
Okay.
But yeah, the quiver was worth more than he sold it to me for the whole setup. A couple arrows, I think, and the quiver and that. And he didn't do it to sell it to me. He did it because I was broken, whatever, 16 years old or something, and I wanted to shoot a stick bow.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again for doing that. Any little thing that we can do to give back is certainly awesome, and thanks for throwing those in.
Well, thanks for having a contest. I mean, it's cool for the adults, for everybody to see. It's fun for me to see what everybody's shooting, but I think that also helps get these compound people and everybody else like on board. Like, holy crap, everybody's really killing stuff. You can actually shoot, you can actually kill things with a stick bow.
Yeah.
And then having the youth thing, that's just amazing that we had that many youths that we're killing stuff this year.
Yeah, we got some ideas what we're going to do next year. It's going to be bigger and better, and so cool getting those stories. So initially, I just wanted pictures. Just send me the pictures. We got an email box that's just freaking sagging. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pictures coming in. Blake was the one that said, "Hey, send us a short story." I'm glad he did because, man, I'll tell you, I wish we could have shared them all. That one guy was like 13 years he'd hunted, and he finally killed his first deer, and that one came in late. Just all the little short stories about, how excited people were about shooting a doe, and that's really what it was about, was showcasing just the average Joe and how much excitement you get out of hunting close.
Yeah, and the other one that stuck out to me was the guy who sent in several pictures, and one of them, he shot a mule deer buck, and one of them, he was standing like 3 yards right above this thing. It was a picture through a spot and scope. That was cool. Pretty stinking cool.
That was cool. I will say, I still think my favorite was when we first launched the contest in August, and somebody sent us a picture, and he's never responded, but he sent a picture of a beautiful, big, solid frame whitetail in the corn, standing corn in the snow, and it was November 2020, and this was like in August. I was like, I don't think so, bud. I was like, maybe that's you look into the future. I hope it works out for you, but this it's not gonna fly. That was awesome.
How'd you get him to stand still last year to take a picture with him before you shot him?
Gosh, that was awesome. Oh, shoot. No, good stuff, man. Greg, I appreciate all your posting and all your encouragement. You encouraged me this year. I was struggling this year, and appreciate your what you add to the community for sure.
Well, thank you guys. I mean, you guys do such an awesome job. Just the podcast is great, and the things you do and the stuff you post up, it's the right stuff for the right reasons, and that's important. So if I can support you guys at all, that's cool.
Cool.
Well, thanks a bunch, Greg. I guess we're going to get out of here. You got anything else, Rob?
No, sir.
All right. Thanks for coming on, Greg.
All right. You guys have a good night.
Later.